3 January 2024, and today I am very, very excited to be giving you and presenting to you my first broadcast of the 2024 year, a year that we've been looking forward to, a year that is very difficult, that we're entering uh, with much uncertainty in Zimbabwe. There was a lot of hope when we entered 2023, and unfortunately, things did not go as planned, and our country did not improve after the elections. I had much hope that after the elections, things were going to get better, but they did not. So, obviously, we're going to be continuing with the coverage of the news. I've tried my best to give coverage during the time when all the newspapers were closed, and we're going to be starting again to provide coverage on all the important stories every morning. And as you know, I'm now studying my PhD, so time is very, very scarce for me. But we'll continue to provide you with all the coverage. And I want to start with obviously what's going to happen in 2024. We're making some predictions here, and we want to look specifically at the things that are going to be important nationally. And the most important aspect that I'm going to look at here is how we are going to remove our country from the crisis. There's a massive crisis in Zimbabwe. People are dying from cholera. Over 200 already have died of cholera. ED has failed to declare a state of emergency. As you can see, cholera has been spreading around the whole country. There is reluctance to admit that we've got massive problems around our country, and there is also a lack of understanding of how we need to proceed. And specifically, if you look at the government of ED and how the state media and state actors are behaving, it looks as if they think everything's fine, when you can clearly see that nothing is fine in the country. Everything is falling apart. Zimbabweans are despondent. That is how we're entering 2024, a year that is very, very difficult. Even as you think about it, it's extremely difficult to know where things are going to go. But I want to look at what is the priority. And as you can see, Chamisa has set out the priority in his New Year message. He has set out a message of hope. It's not a message of confrontation. And if people are looking for confrontation, I don't think they're going to get it from Chamisa. Chamisa has clearly said that he's focused on a year of peace. So let me show you what he said here. 2024, full of surprises. As we begin a new year, I encourage you to stay focused on the promise. We were robbed, but God is a restorer. We keep the faith. Indeed, 2023 was the year. Let 2024 be the year of vindication. So the message that Chamisa is giving is obviously the year of the message of peace, the message of moving forward with dialogue. You remember Chamisa has been talking about dialogue. ED is the one who's been refusing to have dialogue. ED is the one who's been setting unnecessary conditions for the dialogue. He didn't even want to set the platform for a discussion. So ED is the one who is stopping everything right now, as far as we are concerned, and as far as everyone in Zimbabwe is concerned. The next move needs to come from ED, who is failing to make a move. Then we need to look at what happens if there's no dialogue. There's going to be a further crisis. By the time we get to the end of the year, we'll be sitting here and talking about a further crisis. And this crisis, as I said to you, it won't be solved by the common citizens. If the situation in our country continues this way, by December, we'll be telling you a different story here. The fight is going to come from a different direction. ED will be facing new threats and new risks that he cannot contain, because everybody is affected by the situation in our country. Now, let's look at the biggest story that we're looking at today. And I want to start with the stories that are in the main newspapers of our country. And I want to look here at, obviously, Wingy D has been trending with his new song all over the country. Wingy D has angered ZANU-PF. Members of ZANU-PF are very, very angry all over the place. I don't think the man is safe. Wingy D receiving death threats from ZANU-PF over his new song. vamwe vanoti wakavuta, umwe anoti wakawina, akawina. So that song is trending. Wingy D, as usual, is one of the most followed artists in Zimbabwe. There is no artist in Zimbabwe that is as loved as Wingy D, and very, very brave artist. I always tell young people, do not be afraid to speak up your mind. Wingy D is singing in Harare. Some of our people who are abroad, they're even scared to mention the name ED. And Wingy D does it from Harare. How brave is that? And that is why many, many young people are taking hope and inspiration from people like Wingy D. Then let's look at the death of women in Mavuku. The police have been implicated. Zimbabwe Republic Police have been implicated in the death of people who were celebrating Christmas, New Year in Mavuku. Mavuku is becoming a hotspot, and police don't want to say what happened there. But after reading the statement, it's clear to me that the Zimbabwe Republic Police are implicated in the death of people after they overreacted during the New Year's Eve celebrations. Police needs to be investigated, and they need to come out with the truth. The police in Zimbabwe have killed those people. As far as I'm concerned, those people didn't die by themselves. And Nyati has issued a statement. We'll be issuing it on gambako.com later this afternoon. You will see the full details. It's clear that police are involved in the death of those two women or more. It's not clear why police would launch an operation during New Year celebration and then result in the death of people. So we'll be giving you more information on that. Then with the story of cooperatives, housing cooperatives. So there is a bunch of cooperatives that will operate in Harare, which give people land. And there is a notice today from the government and from the Council of Harare, where they're formalizing those housing cooperatives and also offering land to people on the housing list. So you can have a look at those housing lists. Go to your local newspaper, you'll find the details of which housing cooperatives. Housing cooperatives in, I think it's Waterfalls, Prospect, areas like that. If you own land there and we're part of a cooperative, you should check it out. They have been formalized. Then we have the arrest of Freeman, the musician. He was arrested yesterday, questioned over his link to armed robbers, and was released after a cautioned statement. I will ask the news readers to read for you that whole caution statement that he issued the police. And then Mnangagwa, ED, is going to take over SADC as SADC chairman in August. So we want to see how SADC is going to do this issue. Because as far as I'm concerned, and as far as many people are concerned, ED has not responded to the election report, the SADC election observer mission report, which said that the election in Zimbabwe was rigged. So this is key. How can SADC be presided over by somebody that is considered to have rigged the election? So we want to see what SADC is going to do. It's going to be very important how SADC reacts here. And we'll be watching very, very closely. SADC hasn't issued a statement yet, but ED has already spoken about it. Then the election in South Africa is going to dominate the news. There is a potential of great violence in South Africa because the former president of South Africa has formed a new political party, MK Party, which is dominating in the KZN province, which is one of the biggest provinces here in South Africa. And at the same time, the guys are very militant, the MK guys. And we'll see what happens. The confrontation between the ANC and MK is going to be very, very interesting. And also the role that President Jacob Zuma is going to play in South African election is going to be massive. Then we'll obviously be looking at the Zimbabwe Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. There is a massive crisis at the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. Mangunja is leaving, and I think there's Dr. Mshavan who is coming in as the new Reserve Bank Governor. So let me get that name correct. I don't like butchering the names of people. So let's say who's the new Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe Governor? Right, Dr. John Mushavan. So John replaces John. John Mangunja got replaced by John Mushavan. He's going to be taking over. Massive crisis. As I said, ED has failed to provide a currency and currency stability in our country. Last year, the Zimbabwe currency collapsed by 10 times. 10 times the Zimbabwe currency collapsed. And ED has not understood that he has to fix the currency. Nothing will work in Zimbabwe before you fix the currency. So let's see what Dr. John Mshaiwan is going to do this 2024. Then I'm going to end with the tragic story, and I want to share with you on the screen. So I'll share with you the screen, and I'll read a bit here. This is very important. Bulawayo people and cheating is becoming a crisis, and they're dying doing it. So let's look at the death of this young lady in Bulawayo, right? So if you look on the screen, there is a young lady here called Miss Tubeli Hemoyo, 21 years old. And we've got Mr. Tapiwa Mado. So this story is in the Chronicle newspaper. You can go and have a look here. So Tubeli died, that was, I think, last night or the night before. So she's a 21-year-old woman, alleged to be mistress of well-known car dealer Mado, died in a car accident after she was hauled out of the vehicle she was driving along Bulawayo Plumd Road in the wee hours of New Year's Eve. So that is 2 days ago. She died, and she was driving a Mini Cooper from the car dealership. She was flung from the vehicle, and the shocking thing here is that Mado here is a big car dealer in Bulawayo. I think everyone knows him. So she took one of the cars from his car dealership, drove all the way to Mganweni, and she was going to meet another boyfriend there. And Mado himself at that time was with another girl, and he's married. So this is what the newspaper here is saying. And this guy, his nickname is Taps. He operates between 5 Streets and 12th Avenue. So she was flung out of the car, damaged the car, and died. And Mado, who is married, is now saying he's not married, and he was going to marry Tuveli Hemoyo here. You know that we covered the story of Mandlekosi Dube on Christmas Eve, where he was also cheating and he crashed his car into an oncoming car. He committed suicide, basically. And this is all happening in Bulawayo. So Bulawayo people, calm down over doing this thing. So this is our story here in the entertainment story. So in terms of the newspapers, I find the newspapers in Bulawayo to be much more interesting. Chronicle, H Metro, B Metro, those are the Bulawayo newspapers. Sunday News, those guys are very, very fast with the newspapers. In Harare, the Newsday is doing very, very well. They're moving very, very fast. The Standard, the Independent. Our newspapers landscape, I think it's properly covered. But in terms of covering news, where we have a lack is on the television. We don't have a proper TV coverage in our country. There's a lot of business opportunity there, and the government of ED has not done a good job. I have talked to guys in the ministry before, Ministry of Information, and we approached those guys when I was in Zimbabwe before. They're not responsive. They're the worst people in terms of responding to media is the guys at the Ministry of Information. I've actually gone there, sent people to say, let's meet with these guys and have a chat. The media landscape in Zimbabwe in terms of TV, entertainment, and innovation is very, very poor. You see what is happening in the Reserve Bank of the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation. It's a mess. The place is not doing well. The newspapers, there's no opportunity for young people. The number of people that are coming out at NAST and at MSU in media, it's massive. So we've got about 60 to 70 people coming out every year, and there's no employment. I know that because I receive huge quantities of CVs from people from those universities. And to make matters worse, the curriculum at those universities is not correct for current media. So if you look at the guys that are coming out of those universities, they're not capable of starting their own media companies. That is why you end up with the current media landscape that we've got. And these guys at the Ministry of Information, they need to make sure that they support media, a media industry, which is going to provide a contribution to the GDP and also to national development and to focusing our country. So basically, this is something that I think is very, very important. And obviously, here at Gambaku Media, This year, we're going to be raising funds. We're going to be raising, my target for this year is to raise 200,000 for us to create our first head office. And that will be in Harare. And obviously, we'll be going around looking for that money. 200,000 is nothing for a media house. That covers as much as we do. So every month, Gambaku Media reaches 5 million views. That is, if we take our YouTube, our Facebook, our websites in South Africa and in Zimbabwe, we have over 5 million views. That is big. It's a bigger circulation than probably some of the biggest newspapers in Zimbabwe. So very, very important. And I put this challenge on the guys at the Ministry of Information. You can't release all those guys from universities and then do nothing. There must be a plan. There must be strategy for developing media. And this is not something that must be done by anyone else. So I think I've covered that. And let's recap the big stories that we covered today so that we don't forget what we're talking about. Dialogue is going to be critical. Nelson Chamisa has said dialogue is the strategy going forward. ED is the one who's been refusing to have dialogue. And that is what is going to be important going forward. Dialogue based on the rigged elections, based on the election observer reports. And people must be fearless. They must confront ED on his policies. They must confront ED on dialogue to normalize the situation. Wingy D trending over his new song. Police implicated in the murder of 2 women in Mavuku on New Year's Eve. Harare cooperatives formalized. Freeman arrested over his links to armed robbers. DRC president re-elected and inaugurated. ED to take over in August as the chairperson, and that is going to be a controversial appointment. What is SADC going to do? Then SA election to dominate the news with the potential of violence, as President Jacob Zuma has formed a new party, MK party, to challenge the ANC, but is not outside of the ANC. And then the focus on the new Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe Governor, Dr. John Mushayavan. What is he going to do about the current situation? And then in Bulawayo, obviously, we're talking about the death of the young woman, Tubeli Hemoyo, who died in a car accident. Very, very controversial and scandalous story in the Chronicle newspaper. You can go and have a look at it. And then let's quickly look at the comments before I forget. And then maybe I can restart my gym today. Karen is saying, I think SAD is powerless. The issue of legitimacy is going to dissolve. SADC, as I said, is going to be important. Let's watch and see. ED is not going to be recognized if it takes over SADC as SADC chairman without fixing the problem. You're going to see that he's going to struggle everywhere he goes. He's going to be very, very constrained in what he can do. There are many people who won't accept ED to be chairperson of SADC without fixing the problem. And the thing is, it's simple. Chamisa said, let's have dialogue. How difficult is it? Mnangagwa is not official president yet. And then SADC is useless. And then legend is it? Gambako filed the missing case for Chamisa. Yes, of course. Have you seen Chamisa talking? Let me tell you what. I've got a video of Chamisa in Masvingo, right? Thousands and thousands of people like we're running after Chamisa. I'm going to show that video. I received it yesterday. Amazing, and it must be scary for ED to watch that video. So let's. So MSI, I'm saying to you, I received that video yesterday, right, of Chamisa at a shop, and what happened there was shocking. Like everything stopped. People in the whole town started to run to Chamisa. That is scary to ED. That is why I'm saying to you, ED has to deal with this dialogue issue. Power sharing is not negotiable in Zimbabwe. Nothing is going to move until ED deals with this issue, and he knows it. The people around ED, they know this. They know that if ED does not deal with Chamisa in terms of dialogue and providing power sharing, we're going to be having this dog chasing tail situation forever until he leaves office. So I think that is where we are. And Patrick, I'm going to play the video for you. I'll ask the newsreaders to share it. It's self-explanatory. Amazing. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. And I hope that we all have a good year. And when we put out our appeal for funds, for 200,000 that we want to raise for our head office, I need you guys to support us so that we can get this done. And I'll go everywhere. There's no one I'm not going to go to ask for that. Thank you very much, everybody. And